Listen, there's no rhyme or reason to the behavior I witnessed by this dog man. And I'm starting to believe now, after seeing what I saw, that either they have different personality types or some of them are pure psychopaths. I work transmission line construction in Kentucky, spend a lot of time doing maintenance in some of the most isolated woodland places in the world. I'm talking about places where no human probably has ever been for 100 years. This particular day, I take a four-wheeler out onto the right-of-way. I'm there 50 feet up in the air inspecting lattice towers, checking the bolts because some of them had started to rust. I have a small diagram of that lattice tower in my left hand, a pen in my right hand, making notes on the circling sections of the tower that probably will need to be replaced. That's when I see these 6 deer come running out of the woods and into the right-of-way. Now imagine the scene. The tower that I am working on is at the top of the ridge. If you look to your north, it's flat land for about 2 miles and then it drops down into a hollow. If you look to the south, where these deer came out of the woods and begin to run, it shoots straight down into this hollow. Like I said, these deer come out of the woods no more than 50, 60 yards away from me and head downhill into that hollow, hauling. And this was the first time I saw a dog man, because it comes out of those woods chasing them, and it is everything that people say it is. Muscles to the point of ridiculousness, running on 2 legs. And it doesn't run like a man like people say in these stories. It takes these leaping, bounding steps, moving on 2 legs, then down on 4 legs, and back up on 2 legs. It's the most terrifying yet graceful thing I have ever seen in my life. Like I said, this thing takes off down the ridge, chasing these deer. It's about 45, 50 yards behind them, and it runs them down with no problem, swinging at the hind legs of the first one it comes to and instantly breaking them. Then it keeps running, swiping at the legs of a second deer. The other 4 deer take off in different directions, and I watch this thing stop running, turn around, walk back up to that deer, grab it by its head, and snap its neck, then drag it off into the woods. Listen, I'm up in the tower. Below me is the four-wheeler I used to get out there. I'm looking at the situation saying to myself, nobody's going to believe this, but I am not getting down out of this tower. So I radio the only other guy that is out here for miles, my partner Jeff, who works with me. He is 4 miles away inspecting another set of towers. I radio him and say, Jeffrey, I'm going to need you to come get me because there is something very weird going on here. When he inquires about what, I tell him I will show him when he gets here. It takes Jeffrey 40 minutes to get to my location. When he pulls up, I climb down from that lattice tower and he notices the deer laying there with its hind legs broken, squirming around. And he says, hey man, what the hell happened to this deer? What did you do? And I tell him I had absolutely nothing to do with it. A gigantic walking wolf swiped at that deer's legs and left it right there. Now listen to me, Jeffrey is a man of the woods. He's been hunting his whole life, just like I've been hunting my whole life. He looks at me and says there's no predator that injures an animal and just leaves them there. Predators injure animals and take them and eat them. Again, I reiterate to Jeffrey exactly what I saw and what happened, and he's not believing me. So I tell him, listen, I really don't care if you believe me or not, Jeff. We are loading this four-wheeler onto the back of this truck, and I am getting the hell out of this location. We can go back to where you were and finish working, but I am not staying here at all. Well, we go 4 miles away to Jeff's location. I help him inspect his towers, and then we head back to the office. Listen to this. A couple of days later, my boss is on my about this 2-mile section of line that needs to be inspected, and I tell Jeffrey, listen, bro, we're going to go out here, we're going to do this inspection, but I need you to stay with me. He agrees, so we go back to that same location where I was on the tower. When we drive up to that tower and hop out, that deer is still there, but its head is missing. And what I mean by missing is the deer's head has been ripped completely off, gone. So now the 2 of us are working the towers in that 2-mile section where I was supposed to be working. We go up that ridge. Remember, that tower's at the top of a ridge. There's this section that's flat and you keep going. So we go to the next tower and the next tower. When we get to that 3rd tower and get out of the truck, there are literally deer heads jammed into the trees at the edge of the right-of-way. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 freaking deer heads. There are 10 deer heads jammed onto tree branches along that right-of-way. I'm looking at Jeff, he's looking at me, and I tell him, listen, bro, I don't think we need to be at this location at all. I tell him, listen, bro, I don't think we need to be at this location at all. Yes, there's something that can go wrong with these ladder structures, but listen, maybe we just tell them that these structures themselves need to have the lower halves replaced and keep it moving. But I don't feel comfortable staying out here. Listen, Jeffrey's crazy walks over to the wood line to inspect those damn deer heads. Imagine the scene. I've gone and gotten back into the truck and Jeff disappears into the wood lines. I'm screaming at him, telling him, hey, those heads are some kind of warning for something or someone. I don't think you need to be going in there. But he goes in anyway. Listen, 5 minutes later, Jeff comes running out of the woods, full speed, hops into the truck, cranks it up, and damn near kills us. Literally damn near kills us going back down the ridge to get to the access road. When we get onto a real roadway, I ask him, Jeffrey, what did you see that made you react like that? And he says, I saw what you saw. And he says, I'm not sure exactly what it was that I saw, but there were these gigantic eyes looking at me from up in the trees. Listen, I will say this to you. There's a section of transmission line in Kentucky that's deep, way back up in the woods. It's not safe at all. Honestly, it's about to fall over. But we are not going back out there to inspect it. I just slated it down on my paperwork as a complete replacement. Now, the only issue is there's a backlog on those lattice towers because a lot of them come from China. Because I'm not going back out there. That no way after what I saw.